Hey, how's it going? And today I wanted to talk a little bit about custom character classes and using tags to initialize creative devices. So a lot of times you see everybody initializing a device by using a subscription, but by using tags, you can actually get references to creative devices and essentially initialize them without having to go through that whole editable subscription thing. Here's what I got in the game, and this is a little overly it might seem a little overly complicated, and that's just because I'm using a character class. So I've got a HUD message device in the scene, I've got a button trigger, I've got a trigger device, and I've got a verse device. And the verse device is paired to the button and the trigger. So all this is that my player character is going to go over that trigger and it'll print my name on the screen. Now this would work for multiplayers as well, not just a single player, because this is all being set up in a map. So I'm storing a reference to my player. The player is the key and the custom class is what they call the value. So we'll walk through that in just a minute here, but just let me show you what this does. Is if I'm in the game here, and this would apply no matter how many characters there are, because this should be based on a custom character. I walk over that trigger and it's going to display my name. And that's it. That's all it does. But the cool thing about this is this would work for any number of characters. So that's it. As many times as if I had another player in here, it should trigger their name as well. So let's just take a look at this in the code. So this is very similar to the tutorial I just did. And if you go to that, I'll leave a link for that in the description. And if you go in there, most of the code for that, I'll put this in Pastebin just so you don't have to copy all this and you can play around with it. So what we have here is a custom player class, right? And then up here we create a map, and the key is the player, a reference to the player, and then the value is the custom player class up here. And then we create a class for each player that's in our game, right? So how it starts off is we go on begin play and initializes spawners here. The key to this is using tags. And the tags are really, I'm starting to understand, is really super powerful feature. So here what we do is we go through and get all the spawners that are tagged and subscribe them in mass to this onPlayerSpawned method, which then in turn turns around and initializes all the players and sets the map and everything with them. So that's all this does. This is all just like internal housekeeping stuff, where all this code is doing is going through and getting every player that spawns in and putting them in a map. It's running through essentially a for loop right here and running through everybody and subscribing them, and then everybody's getting mapped in by their name along with their class. Now this class that we have up here, all it does is prints out the player's name, right? So what we've done is we've created a HUD class, a HUD tag here, right, for the HUD device. So instead of having to do add editable or a subscription, I just tag my HUD device that's in the scene, right? If I come in here, I click here, and we search for verse tag markup, we would add it over here. You look edit, I've tagged this device here. And these spawners, if I click on them, you'll see that they've been tagged too, right? So everybody's been tagged here. So these have been tagged with spawner. All these items that are tagged, essentially then what we can do is go search for them and then either subscribe them to functions or get the reference to them and make things happen. So that's what we've done in this particular case, is that we've tagged that HUD device, and then down here, when I step on the trigger, we have this event right here, my triggered event, subscribe, and then we call here for player name. It basically gets the agent, converts it to a player, casts to player, and then here what we do is we create an instance of our custom player here, and then we make this call. Then we can make this call to custom player right here, right? This is our custom player class, and then I can call initialize HUD with the player. So then we jump up here to this function inside of our custom player class, and the player comes in. We just print a message to know that it got through, and then here we go and get every HUD device that's tagged, and there's only one, and assign that to HUD. Then we then what we do is we're just going to, there's just one, so, but it's going to loop through it. This could just be an if statement since there's only one. There's no need to, but anyway, it loops through and just gets through the one HUD. And then essentially, if there's a HUD device there, then the cast goes through because it has to be an if statement, and then it gets assigned to my HUD. And at this point, with this line of code, if it passes, then we have a valid reference to my HUD. So now with this valid reference to HUD, I can set the text and do the usual thing that we do to get the player name to display. So I did a tutorial about how to get the player name to display. So this is kind of a variation of that function inside of here. But the difference is that instead of doing @editable and subscribing, we can use the tags and then this get creative object with tag method to basically go get those, and then once we get them, convert them into their HUD message device or whatever device it is, and then once we get that reference, we can do whatever functionality that device has, we can then access it. So anyway, like I said, I'll leave this in Pastebin and you can play around with it and kind of go from there. But this is really a nifty way to work. It really is. So anyway, I hope you found this helpful. Take care, and I'll talk to you next time.